But for them to like diminish that and make it seem like, oh, it's just like a moment that she went crazy was not fair to me. And it made me feel
Mhm.
very small in that moment. And it made me feel like my feelings didn't even really matter. But trust and believe that next year I won conference. So everything like God had promised me, I'll make you win in front of your enemies' eyes. Like I literally got to do that. Those same people that were telling me I was doing too much, he gave me more than I wanted the following year. And I
Mhm.
can't thank him enough for that.
Welcome back to Coats in Conversation. I'm your host, Kendrick Coates. Coats in Conversation is a podcast centered around mental health, specifically interviewing coaches, athletes, and mental health professionals. Today, I'm going to be interviewing Myrèanna Bebe, who is a track and field athlete at the University of Tennessee. Myrèanna, how are you doing today?
But I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm looking forward to this. But before we get started, most people know you as the standout track and field athlete. But who is Myrèanna outside of sports?
I will definitely say an authentic Black woman. Hello. A woman of God, someone that, strives to be the change that she wants to see. And honestly, yeah, a track and field athlete at that too. I'm really just someone that tries to go for everything that I want in my life. Nobody could tell me no. If that really sums up kind of who I am. Nobody could tell me no. No one can tell me who I am. I try to create my own identity. I try to go after everything that I want because you only have one life. So.
I'm curious, like when you were younger coming up, did you always have that
Mhm.
mentality, or was there somebody that instilled just kind of you being authentically you?
Um, I feel like growing up, I always had that mentality. So I grew up I'm the only girl out of four brothers, and my mom's a single mom. So it's always just my mom and myself. So just seeing how hard she works, providing for us, working nights, working mornings, and just being in a house full of young men all of my life, I kind of like had that mentality like, I'm that girl. So I kind of walk in that and I really just stand in my truth no matter where I'm at and what environment I'm in. And then also, being just a follower of Christ, like I very much trust in God with just everything that I do and everything that I am. And I just continue to walk in that light.
I love that, and I'm sure, like you said, being around brothers, there's, I'm sure at some point there was always that competitiveness of,
Hmm.
wanting to compete with siblings. But I want to stick on the point of identity because I think this is really going to drive the direction of our conversation. As a standout athlete at a major university, your identity as an athlete is a huge part of who you are. But there's often, I'm sure, pressures to conform to a certain image, especially with hairstyles, tattoos, nails, etc. How
Hmm.
do you maintain your sense of individuality in a competitive sports environment? And what challenges have you faced in being authentically you?
Yeah, really like just being true to myself, honestly. Just for starters, I definitely had faced challenges with at my old university, just kind of like doing too much or really just doing too much. And I never really understood why because other people that were not like my skin color were always doing the same thing. But I feel like I was being pointed out for it because I would always change my hair. I would always just change my appearance. But, track and field is a sport that's always been known as athletes showing their personality through whether it's Shakari Richardson, like all these athletes have used the sport to show who they truly are. And one thing that I love to do a lot was change my hair. I love wearing different colors to competitions. I love wearing waist beads. I even had an article done on me actually about my appearance because I always was showing up in like a new look and they recognized me for it. But honestly, just staying true to myself because I knew that what I was doing was for me to run good. Like I loved feeling good. I loved looking good. I loved making other girls like understood that they can do the same and they can express themselves through their sport without anyone telling them that it was doing too much or it was too wild because they always want to deem it as too wild or trying to be
Mhm.
seen but whole time you're just trying to be you. So
Mhm.
I think I really just try to stay living in my truth.
I appreciate that because it is thinking about competing at a PWI or predominantly white institution.
Mhm.
I almost just from my own experiences being an athlete and a coach and now a licensed therapist, I hear athletes talk about how difficult it can be to be able to compete and keep your mind on competing and
Mhm.
while other people are making it about, well, what she or he's wearing this or that or the other. Have you ever had experiences where coaches didn't fully understand or appreciate the cultural significance of how you express yourself? And if so, did that have any impact on your performance?
I definitely experienced it, but it didn't have an impact on my performance because I'm very much a you can say what you want, but Imma still do me type of girl. But I think a little track alone is already a sport, for at least for women, it's already sexualized in so many ways.
Hmm.
But just from what we wear with the buns to sports bras to whatever, it is very sexualized for a lot of women already. You know, men already are in the crowd like saying inappropriate comments already. And that's something that we have to deal with every time that we compete. And I don't think a lot of times people even register like that at all. They kind of just be like, oh, this maybe young women or whoever she may be is trying to be seen or trying to be sexual, but the whole time that's just our uniform. And
Hmm.
then say we go and add a bedazzle to it or we add style to it. Now it's like, oh, she's doing too much. But whole time it's like, no, this is what I was told to wear. And I'm trying to use this so I can, run my best and feel my best at the same time. But I don't think it ever had an effect on me because I very much knew who I was. And I knew at the end of the day, I was doing it for me. I knew when I put on those waist beads and when I changed my hair was because I wanted to look good and I wanted to flaunt that and really just have fun. Like that was what I was doing the entire time, just having fun. It made me feel good when I could go to conference and wear a red wig or wear a pink hair. And then other girls will come up to me and be like, oh my gosh, you're wearing pink hair. Like I wish I but it's like you can do that, girl. Like you can. But giving other people the confidence to do something that this sport already tells us like it's always doing too much made me feel
Hmm.
really good. And that's something that I would never shy away from. And I'm happy that I never conformed to like even when I had comments being thrown at me like that.
That's interesting. Like as far as I love I can just tell just like the confidence in your voice and you're just like you're standing on business about who you are. Like
Yeah.
how have other teammates taken inspiration from you? Because as you mentioned, like girls would come up to you and you're like,
Hmm.
no, girl, like you can do that. How have you seen your teammates adapt to that and kind of take inspiration from you?
Yes, I definitely had this one teammate, and I'll always remember her because she's still like my really good friend. She actually started wearing waist beads with me. She started doing her hair, and like it was just like it was a fun thing. And she would always hype me up because I actually would have teammates that be like, "Oh, Miranda, you're doing too much too." They would add
Mhm.
on to like maybe what the coaches were saying or stuff like that. But my teammate would be like, "Girl, like you're not doing enough." Like she'll add on and she'll dress up with me. She'll change her hair color with me, and she'll do fun things and encourage me. And I just knew like when I had met her that what I was doing was like it was right and it was okay. And I needed that because we always have those moments in the back of our mind that's like, okay, like maybe my coaches are right. I'm not being professional or I'm not being this, but it's like I'm being exactly who I am. And I would hate to live my life living it for other people and being someone that I'm not. And that's what it felt like, like for example, even when we have to travel and they say business casual. Business casual to me is business casual, but I'ma still look good. But
Right.
to your coaches and to other people, maybe like, oh, she's trying to look better than everybody else. But it's like, no, I'm really just being me. So it's just like learning. I think throughout the sport, I've really learned to like just be my true self and not conforming to what everyone else has to say. Cause people are gonna have something to say about you regardless of what you do.
It's almost like you cannot please everybody. You can't make
Yeah.
everybody happy, and going through life like that, not only just like a person, but as an athlete, a student
Mhm,
athlete, it's like for what? Like for it
mhm.
just takes way too much energy trying to make other people happy.
Yeah.
Switching gears, because I know just as far as, like, the conversation about you being authentically you, and at times, here or there, other athletes have taken inspiration from you, or maybe at times just kind of like, okay, when you talk about business casual, like, "Is this business casual?" But, "No, I'm gonna look good
Mhm.
in it." In your experiences, even throughout all of that, do you ever hear other athletes of color talk about why it's so difficult to speak out about mental health? And the reason why I say that is because some athletes don't have or are not grounded in the confidence in their identity like you are. So have you
Mhm.
heard others that look like us talk about the difficulty about speaking up about mental health?
Oh, absolutely. I hear it all the time. And honestly, it's really sad because I think it comes from the way a lot of the coaches may see Black athletes. And I've seen it with my own two eyes where a white person could be crying, and they'll go and comfort that white person. They'll go and, and give them all their flowers or whatever it's called. But when there's a Black athlete that is crying, we are being overly too dramatic. We're always just doing too much. And I know I'm saying that a lot, but that's because that's really what they deem us. Like, I feel like Black people, we're always doing too much. And I've seen it in my own two eyes, being in this sport, especially like in my first undergrad years of collegiate track and field, where I even, had times where I was like, I want to express myself, or I'm crying about a track meet or what a situation is. And it was like, you're being way too emotional compared to where my teammate is crying and she's getting a hug and she's getting
Mhm.
caressed or what a situation may be. And I really think that I don't even really know where it's I don't even really know where it's coming from, if I'm being honest. Like, I don't even know truly where they draw a line when it comes to Black athletes compared to white athletes, because we're all crying the same tears,
Mhm. Mhm.
But I feel like we are seen in such a different light and already deemed as like angry people or that
Mhm.
mad Black girl, and we're pushed to the side immediately.
Do you think any of it has anything to do with coaches not understanding the culture?
Oh, absolutely. Cause I feel like a lot of the times they just could care less, if anything. Like, they could care less about what was really going on and what was really stemming behind the tears that we were crying. And I know a lot of Black athletes, if anything, a lot of Black athletes that are playing college sports, not all of us come from great homes. Not all of us could even afford college if it wasn't for us getting a scholarship to run to run or do whatever sport it was in college. I
Mhm.
know for a fact if I wasn't running track and field, I would probably be in Florida at a community college, because I know my single mother could not afford university. So
Mhm.
it's like they don't understand when we are given these opportunities, we take them very, very seriously. These are not just one races. These are not just one, like, this is not just a season. This is something that we are trying to make a career out of. Some of us trying to make a career out of us. Some of us really trying to profit out of and getting a degree out of, or whatever situation may be. So I think a lot of our passion behind what we do is misunderstood very much. Like, I can give an example. When I was at Big Ten conference, actually, I went to the University of Iowa, and I had a year of track and field where it made no sense. To this day, I look back and I'm like, I don't understand that year, because every big meet that I went to, it was like I literally just I wiped out. I could like it wasn't good. I don't
Mhm.
know what it was, but actually, you know what? I look back now and I knew that I wasn't ready. My heart posture wasn't where it needed to be to receive those things. But when I look back at it, I remember a meet. I was so so upset. I was so upset, and it was everybody could see it. Like, I was mad. I think I punched a water thing. Like,
Mhm.
I was so upset, and I remember like actually going up to my coach and hugging him so tight, and he was there and comforting me. But then I also remember being backlashed and saying like, remember, like, basically like it was a joke, in a joking way, like, remember when you were going so crazy, or what a situation may have been, whether he said it
Mhm.
or my teammate had said it. I remember that, and I was just kind of like, I kind of was numb in the moment, but I was bothered
Mhm.
because that wasn't a situation where I was just going crazy. That meant a lot for me. I was given an opportunity to show up for myself and to bring home points for my team, a medal for myself. I worked so hard, and I fell short to that. And those emotions that I was showing was because I cared, because I genuinely cared about what I was doing, and I knew what I should have got, and I fell short to that. But for them to like diminish that and make it seem like, oh, it's just like a moment that she went crazy, was not fair to me. And it made me feel
Mhm.
very small in that moment. And it made me feel like my feelings didn't even really matter. But trust and believe that next year I won conference. So everything like God had promised me, I'll make you win in front of your enemies' eyes. Like, I literally got to do that. Those same people that were telling me I was doing too much, he gave me more than I wanted the following year. And I
Mhm.
can't thank him enough for that.
That story right there, just like even thinking about the emotions, being able to emotionally express yourself or even any athlete, being able to emotionally express yourself, whether it's loss, frustration, happiness,
Mhm.
et cetera, to where it's almost like, and I've seen this with my eyes, is like
Mhm.
there are athletes who look like me and you who suppress even excitement because it's like that's too much, that's too intimidating, that's too scary.
Yes.
And so when I look at, even when I'm watching whatever sport I'm watching, when I see athletes celebrating that look like me and you, I'm just like, that's what it's about. It's about, like you said
Mhm.
earlier, it's about having fun, and part of why we get into sports or why we coach is because it's like we love it. But when we
Mhm.
come into a space where we can't be ourselves, we can't express ourselves, that has an impact. I'm wondering for you, how did you, outside of your coaches and or teammates, how did you handle situations like that and be able to pull yourself up so that you could be in the right mind space to be like, you know what, I'm doing this for me and my family or whoever else without having
Yes.
to worry about what people are saying about me.
Yes. And really like you said it, like I knew before I started track and field, whether it was collegiately, in high school, I knew what I was doing it for. My brother that actually had passed away had, was a really big reason why I even tried out for track and field. So going into college and doing it competitively, because that's honestly where I would say that I did it competitively. Because in high school, I didn't know you can even get scholarships for track and field. I knew nothing about the NCAA world. I was like one of that lost child in the sports world. I was just kind of like there. But I ended up finding out I can get a scholarship and I ended up going off to college for it. But I knew that this was something that my brother, before he passed away, told me to do. So I was going to use everything in my power to make him happy. And it's something that I still do now. So a lot of the times when I do express myself, it's because I'm like, oh my gosh, I know if my brother was here, he would be so happy to see me do this. Like, and it's just like, that's the type of joy. When I'm upset, it's because it's like, I know who I'm doing it for. And it's like,
Mhm,
I sometimes have moments like, oh, I don't want him to be disappointed in me. But even though I know he's not, but in that moment, that's how I feel. And that's what keeps me going, honestly, just knowing that I'm not doing this just for me. And just also knowing like my identity now is so rooted in God. Like everything that I do now, I try to stay in confidence. Like I even told myself this season, like, okay, if God gives me this opportunity to run, because I had a year off. I was like, God gives me this opportunity to run this year.
mhm,
Like I just want his glory to be done. Like, I don't want to step on no line with fear. I don't want to step on no line with nothing, because that's not the God that I serve. He's not fearful at all. And I just want to do everything that I want to do and make my brother happy and make him happy and just let his glory be done, because I know that I'll receive everything and anything that my heart desires. So
mhm.
that's something that I keep close to my heart, just knowing who I'm doing it for. And it's for me, it's for my brother, it's for God. And honestly, just to have fun overall.
As you bring up your brother and having,
Mhm.
like, purpose, who has been the most supportive people in your life to even help you just, like, make meaning of, having lost your brother and having,
Mhm.
this huge responsibility as a collegiate track and field athlete?
I would really say my mom and my aunt, like my family for sure. My family are the only people that really know deeply how it was to mourn his death and to get through that. So they are just been like my biggest support system and everything like that. But when I do have times I think of him, I for sure do have moments that I get sad. But now I'm just like, if anything, it gives me so much motivation. I kid you not, like it's the reason why I stayed in school. It's the reason why I'm still trying to get I'm right here trying to get my master's. He's
Mhm.
one of the biggest reasons why I go so hard for everything. My brother actually passed away a day before his graduation, and he was number
Mm,
one in his college class and everything.
wow.
So I go so hard in college because I'm like, I want to be just like him. And I know for a fact that him passing away, he instilled a lot in me. And there's a lot of times I'm like, this is not even me. Like I never even liked certain things, but I know it's
Mm,
my brother in me that is making me do the things that I do.
wow. And what was remind me again, were you in college when that happened, or were you in high
No,
school?
I was actually freshman in high school. I was just going into my freshman year in high school when that had happened.
Wow, wow.
Mhm.
When we think about, just like, as I think about, you know, athletes that I work with or people that I see when it comes to grieving the loss of somebody, that can be a few months, that can be a few years, that can be for a lifetime. And
Mhm.
so to hear how you've made meaning of, your brother not being here and being able to use the inspiration that he's given you to not only reach your full capacity, but have being able to honor him really and just
Yeah.
say, you know what, I'm gonna lay it all on the line for my brother because from what you said, that's what he would want to see you do is be able to just honor him at the highest.
Yeah, and I tell myself, like, if I'm gonna go through all this pain, like, I'm gonna get a reward for it, and that's, like, my
Mhm,
saying, like, "I'm gonna get a reward for the pain that I go through," and I tell everybody that, like, my coaches, anytime I have anything come up, in my life, I'm like, "You know what? I'm gonna get a pain for the reward that I have to go through." Like, if
mhm,
I have to endure all this, something's gonna come out of it, and it has to be beautiful. Because how I see it is, it may rain, but the sun has to shine someday,
mhm.
somehow.
So, taking that, when we think about grief and loss and just athlete mental health
Mhm.
on the collegiate level specifically, do you think there are enough mental health resources or care available for athletes of color?
Um, I think well, speaking at the university here, at the university that I'm at right now, I never really been too much into the mental health world. I've been met with a couple people as counselors and therapists. I personally feel like I couldn't connect with them, and they were people of color, but I just felt that it was hard to connect on the basis of just feeling like somebody else was gonna know. Like, going into that
Mm,
room and feeling like, "Okay, I may tell you about all this trauma, but will my coaches know? Will somebody else find out about this?" So, just, like, that lack of trust, and it has n probably nothing to do with them, but that's just kinda how I feel like a lot of athletes, we kinda had grew up in this system with sports and mental health. Like, there we don't know if what we tell you will be trusted and actually stayed in this room.
mhm,
And I kind of struggled with that because I felt like one time I did share something with the therapist and other people had known. Whoever, like, other people were involved or may have known, and it kind of made me upset because you go into those safe places and you want to be vulnerable. You want to share certain things in your life that nobody probably knows, probably not even your parents or your friends know, but you just want a listening ear. And if that leaves that room, it's like, what is that? Like,
mhm.
it kind of just feels like you're exposed. But I feel like I personally had some really good experiences. I would say definitely at Iowa, I met my long-term like therapist that I even still have. And she's just been such an amazing person. I feel like she's like an auntie to me, if anything. And she was a really big advocate for a lot of the girls on our team when we had tough times. And she's been someone that's just like someone that I could just confide in all the way through. And she's helped me so much, even through my grief with my brother and my family and certain traumas that I have faced in my life. And she is amazing, like amazing. Her name is Dr. K. Koyas. So
Give
amazing.
that shout out. I'm
Yes.
thinking about it, one, I just it frustrates me knowing that you were in a position where you needed support and there
Mhm.
was this barrier of what's this person even gonna tell my coach? Is this gonna get out? And I think that causes a lot of concern for a lot of athletes. They're like, I don't know if I want to really go there because
Yeah.
if I tell this person this, like I might not be on the relay team. I might get taken out of X,
Mhm.
Y, and Z. What was it about the therapist at Iowa that really hit home for you to where you felt truly connected, supported, and most of all, trusted her?
Okay, so one, she definitely looked like me, and she really talked to me as I was a person. She never really kept on bringing up track and field sports. Like, she talked to me as if I was just a regular person. And I love that. Where I think a lot of school therapists in general, they'll be like, okay, so how's track? Is track affecting this and this? And it's like track has nothing to do with the trauma that I'm dealing with. If anything,
Mhm.
track and field is a distraction right now to what I've got going on. Like, so she really talked to me as a person and just really got to know me, didn't force me to tell her more than I needed, and worked with me day to day or week by week on things that I felt comfortable to work on. She never pushed too much, and she just was real. Like, she just was real with me, and I was able to be real with her and vulnerable with her. And honestly, like, she was also someone that I could just be like one phone call away, whether she gave me her number, I could text her, I could send her a voice memo, and she was just someone that I could just be so open with about. And I love that, where there's limitations at a lot of schools, and counselors. It's kind of like by email or we'll schedule something and then you're with them for only an hour, but it's like you have so much more on your heart probably that only an
Mhm.
hour can do.
I love that. I love that. And that's like I'm just like in my mind, I'm thinking that's the way it should be done. Like you should
Mhm.
be a human first,
Mhm.
athlete second. But I think a
Yes.
lot of times those two are flipped to where it's just like, okay, you're an athlete, kind of like what you're saying. Like, okay, what about sports, this and that? And it's like, I'm here as just Myrèanna. Like,
Yeah.
talk to me like I'm Myrèanna, not Myrèanna the athlete, which I think
Mhm.
does and a lot of times causes that barrier. As we wrap this conversation up, if you could speak directly to coaches, fans, and parents, what would you want them to take away from this episode in terms of the emotional and mental challenges athletes of color often face, especially with the pressures to perform and identity on and off the track?
Honestly, just stay true to yourself. Never feel afraid to speak up and speak out about what it is that is bothering you. And what is it that you don't even like too? Just never be afraid to speak up. That is one thing that I feel that I had to learn over the course of my life, just not being afraid to speak up. But that is a part of living in your truth, and people may not like it. People may not even see you or receive it, and that's okay. But knowing to stay true to yourself will give you all the peace that you need, and be confident in anything that this life may throw at you. You never know what these opportunities may give you and what God wants to elevate you from there from. So it's just honestly just stay true to yourself and be honest. Be honest.
Mhm. We've talked through just who Morena is and the experiences of expressing yourself as an athlete and as a person, mental health, and the pressures that many athletes face. What's next for Morena?
What's next? I'm back after a year of being off, going through some medical things. I am back and I'm better and I'm excited. And honestly, guys, you see me out there. I'm wearing the armor of God and I just want God to work through me and I'm just having fun. So that's really it. That's what's next for me. Just having fun, letting God just lead me through this life and enjoying it, taking every bit of it and making it the best out of it.
Right, I would just want to take a second just to appreciate and give you your flowers for being not only authentically you, but somebody others can look up to. As I mentioned at the beginning of this, I think there are a lot of times where there are athletes who aren't given these spaces to be authentically them and or athletes not being able to use their voice for good.
Mhm.
And for you to come on here and be authentic and just express what your experiences have been like and not even apologizing for it. I appreciate you for that. But I really, really hope that others out there who look like us or who look like you that are in that track and field space that one day want to be in your position can take inspiration from this episode because for you to be in this space where so many athletes are almost placed or forced to be in this box because just to
Mhm.
make everybody else comfortable around them. I'm glad that you are you, and I'm glad for anybody who gets to hear this episode and take inspiration from you. So thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate you for providing this platform for me for my voice to be heard and for me to be seen. This is amazing. So I love this. Please keep doing this. I know there's probably so many other athletes out there that probably felt small because, like I said, I used to not always be this person in my sport that felt so big. I felt so open to speak up and speak out, but I learned along the way. I learned.
Mhm.
So I really appreciate you for providing this platform for us to do that.
Thank you, Marina. Appreciate you. So as we wrap up Coaching Conversation, please be sure to share this episode with somebody who you think can take inspiration from. As I mentioned at the beginning, I think a lot of athletes have these similar experiences but don't have a platform to speak about it. So let's spread this word. Let's get this message out there. If you're not subscribed to Coats and Conversation on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, be sure to subscribe to be the first to view episodes when they drop.